Why don't rich people have fat kids? Food is also a comfort. Money buys a lot of other comforts. For example, quality time, safe places to be outside, expensive weekly trips to urban air. Edit. And I meant this as a parent. When you have enough money, you know you have options to comfort them. You might have more energy to play with them, or work less hours, or money to take them places. You could just buy them a toy if you wanted. You feel bad? Here is a $20 Barbie. If I have $20 that is totally discretionary, and my options for cheering a kid up are a Barbie or a pack of M&Ms. I'm getting the Barbie almost every time. My kid loves candy and McDonald's. And when she is having a bad day, I could cheer her up by getting her junk food. But as a parent, I have other options to lean on. But if I were exhausted from a 12-hour shift doing physical labor, and then only had $10, and I needed to cheer them up, and I don't have energy to clean a cooking mess, maybe I just solve all those problems with the huge mood boost and relaxation of fast food. It is very tempting. Getting more money in people's hands is a solution to a huge bulk of the problems, even if all a family does with extra cash is choose to work fewer hours. That still potentially solves a lot of their problems, because they can use those hours for cooking, cleaning, homework, day trips, quality time, and so on. Nanny here. Rich people do have fat kids. You just don't see it. As the top comment says, obesity is a class problem. I've seen some free documentaries on obesity and food deserts in the US on YouTube. I recommend looking it up if this topic interests you. Surprisingly, it's the people who have the least access to food that seem to have the most problems with obesity. Even though most of us assume the opposite. Heavily processed food is cheap and accessible. It doesn't go bad quickly like fresh produce does, so it's easier to transport and store. And it's generally easier and quicker to prepare too. So it's sometimes the only choice for working parents, disabled people, or others living in poverty. Just an observation. Kids from wealthy families are enrolled in programs like swimming classes, ballet, martial arts, ice skating, etc. We've all seen them. They play instruments as well. Most of them are physical preoccupations that keep the kids mentally and physically active. You're at a private beach with a specific clientele that possibly is focused on appearances. You're making the assumption that there are no overweight wealthy kids. It could very well be that those who are overweight are not showing up to a private beach. I knew rich people with fat kids, but they kept going away to weight loss spas. Because junk food and overly processed foods are dirt cheap and require little time to prepare. If you want to actually eat healthy, you need money for ingredients that aren't overly processed and filled with salts, sugars as preservatives, which is more expensive than, say, a frozen pizza. Add into that the fact that, once you have healthy ingredients, you still need time to turn them into a meal. And your working class person working 14 hours a day across 2 jobs will prefer the cheap, easy food every time. Because rich people can afford healthy food, they can also afford personal trainers and gyms. There is also a certain mindset that people with a lot of money tend to have, that they are very strict with their children and make sure that they don't overeat or eat too much junk food, and that they get exercise away from their screens. Edit. And the really well-off people can afford a chef and/or nutritionist to make sure that the food they feed the kids is both nutritious and delicious. They probably do, but you're not seeing them. Also, like you stated in your own answer to your question, they have more resources and access to ensure their kids don't end up chubby. I'm going to go against the grain here and share my experience as someone who grew up in a very wealthy community and 1% family. Becoming fat as a child or teenager was simply not acceptable in my family, or the families of my friends and schoolmates. I think our parents felt it reflected poorly on them and their competency as parents if we were overweight. They liked to control our weight and used their power as guardians to reinforce this mindset. It had nothing to do with healthy foods are more expensive and harder to get. I was always about 1,015 pounds more than my parents wanted me to be. Looking back on photos, I was never overweight, but I wasn't naturally petite, and I was constantly reminded of that. My parents used to have me step on a scale and tell me that I needed to get to X weight. Personal trainers, club sports, and diet plans were encouraged and recommended beginning when I was in middle school. I was encouraged to take dietary supplements to reduce my appetite. Sugar and fast food were painted in a negative light, and bad foods like cookies or chips were not purchased or kept in the house. My friends who were overweight were criticized by my parents behind closed doors. They would say things to me like, "Can you believe the big fat stomach on Kate? She has gotten so huge. It's hanging out over her pants." And it wasn't just my parents that felt this way. Kate was put on a diet plan by her parents, enrolled in rigorous exercise, and was encouraged to increase her ADHD medication to diminish her appetite. Kate is a fake name, but this is a real friend. Another one of my good friends always had candy bowls at her house. I would sneak candy and hide the wrappers so her parents would not tattle and tell my parents how much candy I ate. I remember thinking I was fat and undesirable in high school and through college. I was a Division I athlete and in excellent physical shape, but would stand in front of the mirror and feel shame that I didn't have a six-pack or large enough thigh gap. I remember running into the Victoria's Secret model Emily DiDonato at a gym on vacation once, and being shocked that she was not much thinner than me. When I look back on photos of myself during this time, I am disgusted, and can't fathom how I ever saw anything wrong with my body. Simply put, I was groomed to believe that being thin was important, and it became a huge part of my self-worth. My experience was not unique to me or my family. In the slightest, I'm still working on repairing the damage this all did to my self-image. My parents have not changed. They continually encourage me to try Ozempic melting face. They absolutely do. I think you underestimate how many stealthily wealthy people there are. Most of America is fat now. That said, obesity is so common with low income for a simple reason. Bad food is cheaper. That's it. It's very cost-effective to manufacture processed, high-calorie foods. It requires very little money to technically physically fuel your body with calories. It's expensive to use good fuel, money and prep time. And once you get into that hormone vicious cycle, it's hard to get out of. Because it's easier to eat healthily and spend time exercising when you're well off. Making healthy food taste good takes time or money. I can eat 2 cans of mixed vegetables and a protein shake for breakfast for 7 days. But do you think a kid will? I work with kids from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Wealthier families have greater access to healthcare, education, and personal time. This allows them to be aware of appropriate nutrition, act on that information accordingly, and spend time with their children doing physical activity or preparing healthy meals. That being said, there are still plenty of wealthy people with overweight and obese children. It's just less common. Image is an important part of wealth. Fat kids stay home. Wealthy parents are stricter about how their children appear in public. Wealthy areas also have fewer fast food restaurants. They do. I've seen plenty because they're rarely told no. Been documented for decades. Lower the income, the more sugar they consume. Soft drinks and snacks, especially soft drinks. Lower income people are more likely to eat processed foods. Peer pressure. Rich comes with an illusion that they're better than the not rich. It's a self-imposed peer pressure to look the part of being better than the rest. They aim to set themselves apart in lots of ways. The expensive activities they do. They don't just play soccer, they go to elite summer soccer camps where they hobnob with a celebrity professional player who got paid $1 million to show up for 6 hours. They don't just go to Planet Fitness. They meet their personal trainer Chad, who not only challenges them with all manner of fitness trends, but he's a certified dietitian too. Same thing with the places they go and the designer clothes they shop for. Everywhere they turn they are reminded that fat is not welcomed, and appearing to be plebeian is embarrassing. Appearances are everything. You must appear to be excellent and fit in order to be welcome. They will avoid you if you fail. This is instilled early on in their lives. And if any rich kids start to plump out, their parents can afford to quickly throw lots of money at it to fix the situation that is embarrassing the whole family. So, yeah, peer pressure.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.